Hello everyone, my name is Adeline Spears and I'm coming to you live here from northwestern Georgia, here in the home AWX weather studio where I haven't been filming in for quite a while, and we're going to be jumping right back into the swing of things right in the nick of time for our next multi-day severe and tornado outbreak that is all starting tomorrow. So let's get into the forecast as we've got some huge things to talk about. Now, we're going to start off with our Day 2 Storm Prediction Center's outlook, and already just jumping right out at you is this red circle where we've got a 4 out of 5 moderate risk for severe weather. And moderate risks are rare in themselves, but having it at a Day 2 outlook is exceedingly rare, and it just displays how confident the Storm Prediction Center is in seeing significant severe weather tomorrow. So let's dive into the mesoscale of this threat, starting off with the tornado threat. We've got this 15% hatched risk, which is one of the factors why this risk is so high, why they did upgrade it to a moderate risk, because we're looking at potential violent to long track tornadoes, which is extremely strong wording coming out of the Storm Prediction Center's latest outlook. And unfortunately, tornadoes will not be the only star of tomorrow's night's event. We're looking at this secondary wind threat as well, which being most concerning at the northern extent of this risk, where we're going to be able to see many of these supercells congeal into a line, and then we'll have that damaging wind threat. And if that's not enough for you, we've got a destructive hail threat on our hands as well. This was the second factor that led to the upgrade to the moderate risk in this morning's update. We have that 45% hatched risk for large damaging hail tomorrow afternoon and evening. We're talking about the possibility of hail in excess of 4 inches in diameter. Softball sized hail is on the table for tomorrow, which is extremely unfortunate as we have multiple cities in this risk, especially Oklahoma City metro area and Wichita. They will be gearing up for potential significant hailstorms tomorrow night. So now let's dive quickly into a few radar scans and kind of look at the timing of these severe storms tomorrow. Then we'll look at the overall synopsis, and then we'll be diving into the next day's threat on Tuesday. All right, we're going to be looking at the HRRR radar simulation for tomorrow afternoon. We're starting at the top, 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and we're not seeing any convection quite yet this early in the afternoon, but this is about the time where you need to start becoming weather aware, as the thunderstorms are going to start forming within the next 3 hours. So we push it forward to 3 p.m. and there we go. Storms are supposed to be firing right around that mid-afternoon mark up here in central Nebraska and northern Kansas. This is where our primary damaging wind threat will be occurring tomorrow, and we've already got those storms forming up there, but nothing quite yet on the southern extent of things. That will change very quickly right around dinner time. 5 p.m. Central Daylight storms are beginning to fire in central Oklahoma and all the way through Kansas. We've still got this linear system pushing through Nebraska and northern Kansas as well. This is probably going to be our peak damaging wind time frame, right in between the 5 and 7 p.m. hours up here in Nebraska, but still we're not at peak storm time or anywhere near it down here in this moderate risk area. We'll move forward just an hour, not too much change. These storms are continuing to progress east, and we're starting to see that large hail threat come to life on a few of these supercells on the Oklahoma and Kansas border. This will be a pretty familiar sight as the night goes on as these supercells continue to grow and mature, especially as night begins to fall when the lower level jet really begins to ramp up and help enhance these tornado producing storms. We'll move forward just 2 hours and we're starting to see some of these northern storms get out of our hair. They're skedaddling off into Iowa and Missouri, where they will probably continue to stay severe, still producing those damaging winds. You may see them begin to fizzle out once they hit the state borders, but it all depends on the ingredients in the atmosphere and how well this timing plays out. And still, nighttime. I know we're not yet seeing any development in central Oklahoma, but it is coming as we hit that 10 p.m. mark. We're starting to see some convection pop up. This is probably going to be induced by that lower level jet, like I just mentioned. That's really going to help induce thunderstorm development after hours. And right at about 11 p.m., we're going to see a few supercells fire off in the Oklahoma metro area, and these definitely could become tornado producers. At this point, there is an extremely rich environment that I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on in the next graphic, but we've got extreme instability, we've got enough lift, we're in a very high sheared environment, and all of this is going to support these tornadic supercells as they traverse central Oklahoma. And now as we push it forward into 1 a.m., then the tornado threat is going to begin to weaken a little bit. This is when Oklahoma City and areas pointing to the west will be clear from these storms. You can go ahead and go to sleep. The threat should be over after that midnight mark. Again, this is a simulated radar, so everything won't be playing out exactly how the HRRR is placing it right now. Changes are expected, especially since we're still 24 hours out from this event. We can still see the leftovers of that damaging wind threat up in Kansas and Nebraska as it continues to push through central Iowa and Missouri. So now we're going to begin to look at the severe setup graphic that will give you a little bit better of an idea on what's happening in the atmosphere and how that is going to attribute to the thunderstorm and tornado development. All right, now our final graphic of the day is going to be looking at our setup and our risks. So starting at the top, looking at instability, I've placed this at extreme because when I was looking over the models this morning, I was finding CAPE indexes between 2,000 and 4,000 joules per kilogram. And for those of you who are not exactly familiar with CAPE, those values are extreme. That is some of the highest values of CAPE you will ever see, capping off at about 4,000 joules per kilogram. And CAPE stands for Convective Available Potential Energy, and it helps promote storm initiation, convection, storm formation, and it also helps those storms mature and eventually become potential tornado producers. Now the next two are going to be lift and shear, and I have both of those at a high for the same reason of instability. I was looking over the models and I'm just seeing so much surplus of both of these ingredients, especially shear. This is going to be a very highly sheared environment, especially after dark, the sun sets and the lower level jet really ramps up. We're going to be encountering some problems, especially induced by the excess amount of wind shear. And now moving over to our risks. Tornado I've placed at high just because I think there's going to be a high chance of seeing tornadic activity in our moderate risk tomorrow. This has nothing to do with Storm Prediction Center outlooks at all. Wind I'm placing at a moderate because it's just not the main concern for tomorrow's event, unless you live on the northern side of things where that really is your only big issue. And that's just because we're going to be seeing that linear event move through where we will be seeing that damaging wind, but it's still not the most prevalent issue tomorrow. But what is a prevalent issue is our hail, which is why it is set at extreme, as we have a destructive hail potentially in the forecast, getting up to grapefruit and softball size potentially, which is just absolutely mind-boggling how massive that could be. And another factor on why I've placed this at an extreme is because where this hail will be falling, we're looking at hailstorms in metropolitan areas such as the Oklahoma City area and Wichita, Kansas, both large cities and large population centers that would be particularly devastating if a large hailstorm would go through that area. Now that we're done covering Monday's threat, let's quickly take a look at Tuesday's. Here with the Storm Prediction Center's Day 3 outlook. For this, we're looking at this large slight risk, 2 out of 5 or 15% risk right now, stretching all of the way from the deep south, getting up well into the Ohio River Valley. And this is about all the information we have right now, as details this far out in the forecast are getting pretty finicky. So we don't have much more information today, but definitely will tomorrow. So continue to stay weather aware, especially for Tuesday's event, as there's a lot of uncertainties right now. But this will wrap up this AWX weather forecasting video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you feel a little bit more prepared now that you've watched this video. I apologize if it seems a little finicky, a little rough. It's been quite a while since I've filmed a forecast like this, so bear with me. Once we get back in the swing of things, it'll get back up to its typical quality, especially as summer comes around the corner. I'll have a lot more free time on my hands, so you can expect even more updates here on YouTube and X. Just remember, no matter rain or shine, you can always trust Adeline for all of your weather updates. Stay safe and stay weather aware.